It was several years later that it actually became an MLM. And honestly, I didn't notice any difference like in my personal experience. The company themselves were saying like weird things and pressuring them to do things like, you know, like cut the ties with your haters. I planned that I would leave the company if I ever started losing money, but I always came out ahead. Hey guys, if you're watching my channel, you probably found me through some of my videos about LuLaRoe or maybe some of my other experience with MLMs, but I have been actually a part of several MLM companies. Some you might be surprised by, and I'm going to tell you my entire MLM history today. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. The very first company that I was a part of was actually Avon. And I joined Avon while I was in college. If you're not familiar, Avon is makeup and cosmetics, jewelry. Sometimes they would have clothes or like housewares and home decor items. And actually a family member of mine worked in a workplace where there was often just like an Avon catalog sitting around. And I was in college and they suggested, oh, why don't you join Avon and you could like distribute catalogs to all the girls on your floor in the dorm and just make a little extra money. So I actually signed up over summer break while I was home, and an Avon lady came to my house and got me all signed up, and I went back to school that fall and somebody else had already hung up signs all down my hall in the dorm that they were selling Avon. So I never actually like marketed this business at school, which was what I had intended to do. And so what ended up happening was actually a lot of my sales were through that family member. They would take the catalog to their workplace and you know, their co-workers would place orders, and so I did kind of like the back end part of ordering the actual products, and then my family member back at home would like do all the collecting of money and delivering of orders at their work. And it was very manual. I won't tell you what year this was or give away an age, but we did place the orders online, but it was like a lot of, you know, writing out order forms on paper and collecting cash and checks from people. I think it was also kind of just the way Avon worked, but like people weren't just going to your personal website and ordering stuff. You would place one big order for everything, you know, that week or that month, and then you'd get shipped one big box of everything that had been ordered, and then you as the Avon consultant had to like split it up into individual shopping bags and you know, and hand it out and collect the money back from people. So you would pay for those items up front, and then when people paid you back for them, you would keep that money. And so the amount they paid you back would kind of reflect what you had put out plus whatever percentage like commission you earn based on the volume of the order. I'm not going to get into the details of how all these companies work. I'm just telling you my history. If you want to hear more about Avon and how it worked in the early 2000s, let me know and I can do a whole other video about that. But actually at the time that I joined, Avon was not an MLM model. It was several years later that it actually became an MLM. And honestly, I didn't notice any difference like in my personal experience. I wasn't participating like in a team or anything, so I never noticed any difference in like the communications I got or like uplines or anything like that. I didn't even realize if, you know, when it was or wasn't an MLM. And actually this whole time since I've been kind of more in like the anti-MLM world, I was always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was part of Avon as an MLM, but it was not an MLM when I joined. So it was a little bit different of a model. So one other thing about the way Avon worked was you had to order new catalogs every 2 weeks. Every other week there would be a new campaign and you had to order those catalogs. I actually once tried skipping the new catalogs when I knew I wasn't going to be around for that upcoming campaign. I thought I would just skip it, and my upline or like whatever it was at the time, whoever was above me, was like, oh, I noticed you didn't order your catalogs this campaign, so I went ahead and ordered them for you. Don't forget to do that again. So I guess, you know, in order to stay active, you had to order those new campaigns every week, even if you weren't going to be around to distribute them or collect orders from them. Some of the other expenses that we had were like shopping bags. They had all different sizes of shopping bags for you to deliver people's orders. There were order slips, like I said, there were sort of like carbon paper order slips, samples, and actually it was sort of funny. Sometimes people would get referred to me, like they would call Avon's headquarters and ask for a local Avon person, and they would put them in touch with me because they wanted like a specific product or a sample of something, and I would have to explain, like, I'm not that kind of Avon lady. I can order you something if you want this product, but I don't just like keep stock on hand or have samples of a lot of things. Now I also bought and used a lot of Avon products myself, and I was actually with Avon for about 10 years, mostly again kind of just casually selling through my work and through my family members' work. And then, you know, after I ended my time with Avon and canceled with them, I pretty much just like phased those products out of my life. I don't think people continued coming around looking for the Avon lady because I was not really a very good one. My method has always been, you know, I will do it as long as I'm not losing money. And so I didn't lose money, but it wasn't like a big money making thing, and it was a lot of effort. So the next company that I joined, which you might have seen some videos about on my channel, was 31. And this was a company, it still is a company, that sells like bags, totes, purses, accessories, home organizing items. These are all things that I am obsessed with normally. So I'd actually never heard of 31 until a friend of mine from college invited me to a joint party that she was throwing. She was a Scentsy consultant, and she had another friend who was selling 31, and I mostly was just going to see my old friend. I wasn't really interested in Scentsy, and I had never heard of 31, but I ended up really liking the 31 products. I bought some stuff, and I ended up hosting my own party with that girl. And then I had so much fun helping like my friends and family pick out what they wanted to order in my party, and I just like became obsessed with the products that I thought I would join 31 as a consultant. So if you are familiar with me and my channel, you probably know that the very first thing that I did was research 31 before I joined, especially because they had, you know, they're like a Christian-based company and they had some certain connotations, and I just wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be anything about them that I was not comfortable with. And actually the only negative thing that I found about 31 in my research was actually from like very Christian people who were concerned because 31's own charity supported the Girl Scouts, and the Girl Scouts in turn support Planned Parenthood, and so these people were concerned that 31 is supporting Planned Parenthood. I didn't have a problem with that personally. That's actually cool to me, so I went ahead and joined 31 without any worry about like any kind of Christian connotations. So I actually had a great experience with 31. I made friends with lots of my customers, lots of my fellow consultants and my team. I attended 3 different conventions. I actually vlogged one of them that my husband went to with me, so if you might have checked out that video. And you know, again, I planned that I would leave the company if I ever started losing money, but I always came out ahead. It was a fun hobby. I will say there were times where I would purchase items for myself to meet a goal or to remain active, but it was always like things that like I would have bought them anyway, or I was buying things as gifts and I just kind of like stocked up at the end of the quarter or whatever I needed to do to remain active if I needed. So again, I wasn't just buying tons and tons of inventory just to, you know, remain active or earn a commission or whatever. So I sold 31 for about 6 years, and I did a whole video about how I went inactive with the company. So I will link to that as well for you to kind of get the full picture of my 31 story. But again, it was not a bad experience, but you know, I feel like I was very lucky in the experience that I had. So this next company you might have never heard of. I'm actually not sure if they're even still around anymore, and I wouldn't have heard of them if it hadn't been for 31. So this was Keep Collective, which was a brand of like customizable charm jewelry. And actually, while driving to a 31 convention, I met a fellow 31 consultant at a rest stop ladies room, and we ended up connecting on social media. So I was following her on Instagram, and later on she posted about an opportunity that she had joining a brand new company. So Keep was an offshoot, or like a sister company of Stella and Dot, who you might have heard of. They are like a jewelry and accessories MLM. I'd been to some Stella and Dot parties before. I knew some Stella and Dot consultants, so I was already familiar with the company. And Keep Collective was kind of just starting out, and so I was able to apply to be one of the first, I believe, 500 Keep consultants at like for when they launched officially. So some of these consultants who were like part of that initial group were clearly recruited from other brands. Now that I understand better how this kind of works in the MLM world, I can see that they came from other companies and like brought their whole downlines with them. But they did have to, like, you know, quote unquote, qualify and kind of work their way up over the first few months to rank up, but they sort of started with a head start in that they had a full team of people under them. But also there were some people who were maybe brand new to MLMs who also, you know, having that ground floor opportunity, were able to rank up quickly because of their like personal networks and personal connections from, you know, outside the MLM industry. So I definitely know one person who I had connected with early on who like had their own jewelry business, or like a jewelry shop, and when they started selling Keep, they basically had, you know, their whole contact list from their existing jewelry business, and they were able to reach out to them and, you know, make all the sales and recruit all the people that they needed to like rank up really high, even though they'd never done an MLM before. So it was like, on one hand, it, you know, there was the chance for it to be an even playing field, but on the other hand, they definitely did bring in existing high-ranking people from other MLMs, other jewelry MLMs, etc. So this was the first time that I had ever been with something like this from like the very, very beginning, and not everything was perfected yet. You know, our websites didn't exactly work right. The product selection was very minimal while they were still rolling things out. I think there was, you know, some quality issues or different things that they were sort of changing with different product designs as, you know, as they got in more people's hands. But really, I wasn't into jewelry the same way that I was into like purses and organizing. The concept of the personalized charms was neat, and it was something that people could like purchase and continue adding to. So that was sort of a neat feature, but I just didn't have like the same passion for the product line that I had for, say, a 31. So when I started selling LuLaRoe, which overlaps with this time, I did decide to leave Keep, and I actually reached out to my upline, you know, to let her know that I was planning on leaving the company, and she told me that she and many of the other senior leaders had also decided to leave Keep at that time because the company themselves were saying like weird things and pressuring them to do things like, you know, like cut the ties with your haters, including their own family members who might not have been supportive of them in the company. So I was never part of those kind of conversations, but apparently that kind of culty stuff was happening at that more senior leader and level, and so there was sort of more of an exodus of those higher up people. So it was sort of just funny timing that I was leaving at the same time as all of them. But actually, I think a lot of the people that I met through Keep, I don't know if any of them do it anymore, maybe like one. But it was sort of fun, you know, the just couple hundred of us who joined initially. We did, a lot of us connected on Facebook and through social media, and so I am actually connected to a lot of them still. I got to go to the very first Keep convention, which was like almost a year after the company had launched, and so it was all these people who we'd like had very deep connections online and got to meet each other in person for the first time, and that was really fun. So it was a fun experience, but again, I didn't really have the same passion about the products, and I just wasn't into it. Again, I wasn't losing money, but it wasn't like worth me putting effort into it. And then, like I mentioned, the final MLM that I had joined was LuLaRoe. So you've probably heard the story many times of how I joined LuLaRoe in some of my past videos. I'm not going to rehash any of that here. I will just leave a link to my LuLaRoe experience playlist, and you can hear all about how I joined the company, how I left the company, my experience in various aspects of LuLaRoe. If you have any other questions about any of that experience or any of these other MLMs that I talked about, please do let me know. And you know, I've been doing like a LuLaRoe series of videos, but I can talk about some of my other experiences in these MLMs in general, or you know, if you want to learn more about 31 or Keep Collective or even Avon. Honestly, I told you everything I have to know about Avon, but if you want to hear more about how Avon functioned 20 years ago, let me know. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. I'll keep doing these MLM and LuLaRoe video series. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.